Sports is an enormous part of human culture, and people have been inventing new sports as pastimes for decades. Football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, and tennis are only a few of the more common sports, but there are hundreds of others all over the world. Many of these are old traditional sports, but there are also some unusual new ones that have only recently appeared. Here on the top 10 most bizarre sports played around the world, and we'd be lying if we said we didn't want to try a couple of them out for ourselves. Competition has been a part of our lives since men and women first discovered that they could compete with one another. We are naturally competitive people that want to know that we are the same, if not the best at anything. That is why the NFL is so common in North America, as well as football or soccer in other parts of the world. However, for some people, these so-called mainstream sports are inadequate. The rivalry should be stranger and more centered. So with that in mind, we decided to investigate some of the world's most bizarre sports. You won't find sign-up sheets for anything on this list at your local rec center, but you will find a rabid fan base somewhere on the planet. Keep on watching for a list of the world's 10 craziest sports. Number 1. Bozkashi. Owing to our zealous protection of animals and their well-being, the game Bozkashi will have a difficult time gaining approval in the United States. Two teams of players compete in Bozkashi by riding horses and dragging a dead goat behind them. The purpose of the game is to drag a dead goat across a line to win a point for your team. The game has a long history in Afghanistan dating back to the 10th century. The game has been adapted into a more humane version called Kavkaz by Americans. Similar to soccer, two teams of 5 attempt to pass a giant sheep-skinned ball through a wooden goalpost in this edition. Number 2. Sepak Takraw. It's one of the most popular sports in Southeast Asia, and it's completely fantastic. The game is named after the Malay word sepak, which means kick, and the Thai word takraw, which means woven ball. It's basically a 3-a-side kick volleyball with a hacky sack feel to it. Number 3. Kabaddi. This is the national sport of Bangladesh and some Indian states, and it originated in India. It's also common in Pakistan, parts of Southeast Asia, and oddly enough, Peebles, Scotland's border town. The game is played between two opposing teams with the aim of scoring more points than the other. A team can send a raider into the opposing team's part of the court to score points. When inside, the raider would use his legs and arms to tag as many members of the opposing team as possible. The higher the number of players tagged, the more points are scored. Doesn't it appear to be simple? That's incorrect. When on the opponent's court, the raider must not take another breath, and to prove it, will chant Kabaddi, Kabaddi, Kabaddi without stopping. The raider is out if the opposing team manages to trap him before he can return to his side and catch his breath. As a result, the game is loud, fast-paced, and full of movement, talent, and stamina. Number 4. Bossa ball. Bossa ball is similar to volleyball except that the ball can be held in the air from any part of the body and can be struck up to 8 times by one player until it must go over the net. The game is played between 3 to 5 players on an inflatable trampoline with one giant trampoline on which the attacker sits. The attacker is launched into the air and has the opportunity to fire a barrage of bullets. If the ball lands somewhere other than on the trampoline, the opposing team receives 1 point. If it lands on the trampoline, the opposing team receives 3 points. Number 5. Taoshi. Taoshi is a bizarre, unpredictable, wild, and highly entertaining sport that developed as a training exercise for the Japanese military. It's similar to capture the flag, but much more serious, and with 75 players on attack and 75 on defense, it will always end in chaos. The attacking team must lower a perpendicular to the wooden ground pole to a 30-degree angle. The defending team must stop them, and they do so in a somewhat coordinated fashion using various positions. The ninja, easily the best position, sits atop the pole and leans to the opposite side if it is being tipped to offset the weight, while barriers protect the pole and are the largest part of the defense. Interference harasses attackers who get inside the barrier. Scrum disablers remove the offensive technique of springboard, and the ninja, easily the best position, sits atop the pole and leans to the opposite side. Number 6. Calcio fiorentino. The game is played on a sand-covered rectangular field with a length approximately twice as long as the width. It's divided into 2 identical squares down the center with target nets at either end. The matches, which last 50 minutes, feature 2 teams of 27 players. Substitutions are not permitted even though there are accidents which occur frequently. The ball is thrown into the middle of the field, and the teams rush it in an attempt to take possession and kick it over a barrier at the opposing team's end. Players can use their hands and feet, and techniques like tripping and tackling are allowed, so things can get pretty rough, but there's a long list of rules in place to keep accidents to a bare minimum, revised from the original version written by a Renaissance count. Although several combat methods, including martial arts, are permitted, it is not permitted for several players to battle a single opponent at the same time. Number 7. Vierlepen. This traditional Frisian sport, also known as vierlepen, pole vaulting, is a sport in which an athlete uses a pole to cover as much distance as possible over a ditch. You may be shocked at how far the players will leap if you watch a game of vierlepen, pronounced vierjeppen. It's a fun sport to watch because there's a fair chance they won't make it to the other side. Number 8. Shin kicking. Shin kicking is another sport with a unique history. The game was derived from the Cost Worlds, at first being banned for more than a century by the Olympics Association. The rules are the same in both games. 2 opponents must kick their way to victory. From the knees to the ankles, you have to kick the front of the thighs. Number 9. Mokomoko boxing. Don't you think ultimate fighting is tough enough? Well, you're out of luck because that's about as difficult as it gets these days. Polynesians, on the other hand, used to practice mokomoko boxing, that is, bare-knuckle boxing, and it seemed that the only suitable method of blocking an incoming blow was to close one's hand. You're disgusting. Oh, and all of the blows were directed at the victim's face. Competitors just stood there and traded blows until one of them was knocked out. But the best part is the victory call, which was yelled at the fallen boxer and was translated as, "Go eat chicken dung." Hawaii should reintroduce it as a state slogan, in my opinion. Number 10. Chess boxing. Your instructor certainly had no idea what chess boxing entailed when they told you that chess was a good mental exercise. In the world of sports, chess and boxing are almost as close as dogs and giant squid. That is to say, apart from the fact that you must keep your ass in the game, there are no commonalities. 2 teams compete in 2 different sports at the same time in chess boxing. There are 11 4-minute rounds separated by boxing bouts. Players must make their moves on the chessboard, which is then withdrawn for a 4-minute game of boxing. After that, the board is returned to the ring and the next moves can begin. This is an intriguing way to improve at either sport, but we're guessing the target isn't to have an exact replica of either game. It would be like crystal clear beyond any shadow of a doubt that all the games we discussed above are the world's craziest game of all time. As we described about all the games, they're not simple like cricket, hockey, or football. These games are the craziest, and no one can play these types of games other than a huge fan following of these games, and the world's craziest games get liked by lots of amounts. These games have the same type of tournaments like other games, but all of them have separate rules and regulations. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you never miss any new uploads.